What happens when two former hashiras engage in a deadly duel? The memory of Rengoku, our favorite flame-breathing slayer, continues to burn bright in our hearts. But what if Rengoku denounced his position as the flame pillar, turned into a demon, and faced off against the man who trained him, Shinjurou? Former flame hashira, respected demon slayer retiree, grieving alcoholic, and most importantly, Rengoku's own father. How would they fight each other? And ultimately, who would be victorious? Disclaimer: the contents of this episode contain spoilers for pretty much the entirety of Demon Slayer. You have been warned. The first question to answer is whether old Papa Rengoku would fight at all. His track record as a father has been not stellar to say the least. But we do know that under the hard surface of his neglectful drunken anger is a grieving soul, full of loss and remorse, haunted by the death of his wife and later his son. In fact, it's Rengoku's posthumous letter that finally thaws Shinjurou's hard exterior and allows him to feel his grief and grow rather than continue to wallow and sulk. So he does care. He just needs a little kickstart. So, receiving a different letter that his oldest son was turned into a demon, that kind of news would be a pretty strong kickstart. Whether it was against his will or not, Shinjurou would see it as a shame on himself for neglecting and failing to train his son well enough, both in morals and combat. He would hopefully realize that the constant environment of bitter rage and resentment would have crept into his own son and tainted him with darkness, and that rage has now been turned inhuman. He would hopefully see his fault in this, but unlike his late wife, this time at least, he has a chance to fix his mistake, to put his darkness to rest. And this all would be enough to make him pick up the katana again to behead his own son himself. A tragic reason, no doubt, but a reason no less. Okay, so we have a motive. What's next? Well, now the two would have to fight. For this scenario, we're going to assume that in becoming a demon, Rengoku was not able to pull a Nezuko and instead became a somewhat morally conflicted demon of upper moon rank like Akaza, which means that he would fight his father but still retain some of his former hashira-like qualities. But now that the stage is set, we'd have to ask, being all fired up is great, but isn't enough? At a point in the story where no one has killed an upper moon for over a century, can a former, older, rusty hashira hope to kill a very high-level upper moon, much less his own son? The short answer? No. Or at least in 99 out of 100 fights, no. But there's a very slim chance that Shinjurou Rengoku could beat his son in combat with a little bit of assistance and a major epiphany. So how would Shinjurou Rengoku match up against Demon Rengoku? Buckle up, Gramps, it's time to drop the booze and pick up some barbells because you've got some training to do. But remember, fire breathing runs in the Rengoku family, and so does their burning willpower. So we have no doubt Papa Rengoku could pick up the slack. Being the former flame pillar, Shinjurou would know all of the breathing techniques his son did, including the family special, 9th form Rengoku. So, how would a battle go? Both Rengokus face off under the dead of night. Shinjurou steals his blade and exhales. He cannot let his grief weaken him. He needs to channel it into his sword and release it once and for all. Kyojuro is calm. He unsheathes his blade and just as calmly paints it in flames. But you can see the anger in his eyes, the ever-present anger that accompanies his demonic self. There's the slightest nag in the human part of his brain that recognizes his opponent, but it's not enough to make any waves just yet. Shinjurou exhales, flame-breathing first form, unknowing fire. He explodes forward at blazing speeds, though to Kyojuro, it might as well be a light stroll. With a flick of his sword, the flames blaze outwards around him in a searing haze and gush outwards like a wave, engulfing the entire area in wildfire. Shinjurou instinctively reacts. 4th form, booming flame undulation. He blocks the heat wave, but still feels the immense pressure of the heat around him. He then realizes that his shoes are on fire as they touch the ground. He tries to stomp them out, but they don't go out. Realization dawns and he immediately retreats, jumping to the highest vantage point he can reach away from the flames barefoot. His soles are burnt, but he managed to slice his shoes off quick enough. He stares in shock at his son, who still hasn't moved. But the flames continue to spread, crawling up his high ground and melting everything around it. Shinjurou can feel the upper moon's pressure now bearing down on him. That's when Kyojuro roars out a sentence. Fifth form, Flaming Tiger, sixfold. In a blinding series of slashes, 5 bright red flaming tigers explode out of Rengoku's blade straight at Shinjurou. Caught off guard, Shinjurou reacts instinctively with another fourth form, barely blocking this time. But he gets burnt. Red flames cover his sword, his hilt, and parts of his body, immediately eating into his flesh. He's in immense pain, standing only by tapping into the durability from his breathing techniques. But in the wave of flame, he realizes with horror that Kyojuro is gone. He raises his katana in a frenzy before a shadow appears right next to him. Kyojuro blitzes down with his own flame-breathing first form with immense force, and an arc of red fire explodes outwards. Shinjurou brings his katana up in defense, and a red blade cleaves straight through it, cutting it in half before biting clean through his head, severing it. All that's left is fire as Shinjurou's body burns to a crisp. Game over. But what's the 1%? What's the Doctor Strange 1 in 14 million possibility that Shinjurou wins? Well, the answer is if this disgruntled old man somehow fulfilled his old dream and masters sun breathing. Now I know that sounds like a stretch, and it is, but think about it. Flame breathing is by far the closest derivative breathing style to sun breathing. So close, in fact, that you can't even call flame breathing fire breathing, because in Japanese, fire breathing directly translates to sun breathing. Even in the Mugen train arc, we see Rengoku actually help Tanjiro figure out sun breathing with his own background in flame breathing. So, while it's super unlikely, it's not impossible. Our old man would just have to put aside his pride and start putting together those pages he tore out the 21st Flame Hashira's records and get to grinding. And this commences the training arc. And if he's really lucky, then this is how the fight would go down instead. Kyojuro blitzes forward on a half-burnt, unassuming Shinjurou. First form, unknowing fire, whoosh! Steel meets fire, fire meets steel. And for a split second, Kyojuro's flames extinguish. The demon Hashira completes his strike, confused, but Shinjurou is gone. Kyojuro looks up and sees his father a couple of yards away. He's panting, bleeding, burnt. His eyes are covered in blood, and his body is black, shaking from the exertion of red flames eating through his skin. But somehow, he's inexplicably alive. Something's different in his eyes now, a determination that wasn't there before. Suddenly, that fiery, unshakable will starts to surface again. And that's when a new scar appears on Shinjurou's face, burning on his skin. The Demon Slayer's mark appears, barely visible under the fire that completely covers Shinjurou, but he refuses to go down. With a roar, Shinjurou assumes a stance. Kyojuro sees that his red flames have also engulfed his father's sword, turning it bright red. Suddenly, he feels uneasy, scared. Something in Muzan's cells start to shake, a memory of a swordsman. And that starts to shake Rengoku's human memories too. Recognition starts to bloom, that the man in front of him is of his own blood. But his body moves on autopilot. Rengoku roars, and before he even realizes it, he's assuming his 9th form, Rengoku. A red dragon blazes forwards towards Shinjurou. Just as Shinjurou roars in return with a final breath, sun-breathing 13th form, Dragon Sun Halo head dance. The two flames meet, and breathing styles clash in a monumental, beautiful explosion of warmth, until the dust clears and the ash settles. And we see Kyojuro Rengoku's body slump, decapitated. Now, just like Akaza, it's possible that Rengoku could continue on even without his head. But suddenly, the memories of his father come back. The memories of a broken man. And that's not the broken man he just fought. He found himself again. And in the pride he feels for his father and the shame he feels in himself, he loses his will and the flames go out. The thing about Rengoku's demon art is that his flames cannot be extinguished except by one thing, the sun. And whether it's a subconscious mental connection or an actual rule in his demon art, the light of sun extinguishes the fires of darkness. And with Shinjurou's new sun breathing, that's exactly what happens. However, that's also where the story ends for Shinjurou. A blaze of glory, a golden flame of redemption has burnt away his sins. And as he collapses, he sees the faces of his wife and child welcoming him into heaven. And Shinjurou Rengoku passes away with a smile on his face. And that's the beautiful end to a traumatic battle between blood. Fire meets fire. Two flames snuffing each other out.